I've noticed lots of exciting new growth in my plant propagations at the moment, and today I'm going to share with you all the exciting updates. So let's start with this Monstera Adansonii. This is a water propagation, and you can see those really light green smaller leaves there. Those are new leaves, so it does have some new growth. So that's a really good sign. Let's just take these out of here so you can see. Just look at all those gorgeous roots. We're not getting secondary roots yet, but these roots are looking really good. And also no signs of rotting, because obviously rotting is always a risk with water propagations. I did use rooting powder on all of these cuttings, so maybe that's done the trick. But yeah, these are rooting really well. Okay, and these are some of my rubber plant cuttings. This is the Melanie, I think it's called, if I remember rightly, Ficus Melanie. And we do have some roots there. A couple of the cuttings are a little bit further along than the other one. Got one here. That one has some catching up to do, but these two, oh, so does that one actually. These two are only just starting to show roots, but this one here, this one is the one that's ahead of the game. No idea why that happens. I think it's just nature, but yeah, rooting well. And then this is another of my rubber plant cuttings. This is the Ficus robusta. And check out those lovely roots. This one's rooting really well. The other cutting from the same plant, it's just starting to root, but not a huge amount to show yet. Again, that's just what happens with propagating. And I did recently pot up some of my Syngoniums, but this is one that I still have in water. And they're rooting really nicely. These guys are slightly smaller than my other cuttings, so they're going to make a super cute little plant when they're ready to be planted. But yeah, Syngoniums for me are really easy to propagate. As long as you make sure there's a node and an aerial root, they just root so well. See if I can get them back in there. And then I have several Maranta cuttings. This is one of them. I think this is just the one. And you can see some good roots growing there. Really nice. And in fact, this is a new leaf here as well, this one. And the existing leaves are still looking nice and healthy. It is eventually normal, I find, for some of the original leaves on a propagation to die back, especially after you've planted it and it starts to grow more leaves. It's usually just a natural course of nature that the leaves will die back. But yeah, that's one of them. And I do have several of these on the go because I'm looking to make a fuller plant. Let's see how these others are doing. Yeah, this one, again, about the same as the last one, I'd say. Rooting well. And this one has also got a new leaf, so again, that's a good sign. So that's 2 successful cuttings so far. And I actually do have another one here. I believe this has 3, but one of them has failed. This little one here is not rooting. It does have a node on there, but it hasn't rooted. I don't know if it will. I shall leave it in there just in case. But these two, again, they've started growing leaves already. One is a little further ahead than the other one, but they're doing well. So most of my Maranta cuttings are successful so far, so that's good. And I am really looking forward to planting these back in with my main plant, but I will have to just keep them on their own for a bit when I transfer them to soil, because they will have different watering needs for a little bit. These guys are some Monstera Siltepecana cuttings, and I'm actually just going to leave these in the jar. Hopefully you can see that. They are all rooting really well, and I can see some new leaves growing in as well. And the mother plant is growing really well as well. This seems to be so far one of the easiest going plants I've ever had. It's really easy to propagate, really easy to care for. And then I also just have this other Monstera Siltepecana vine because it fell off. Well, more accurately, I accidentally knocked it off. We had a little accident, so I just popped it in some water. And look at that, it's rooting. So yeah, I was a bit sad when I knocked that off, but it's rooting really well. It's growing still growing new leaves, so it was an experiment. I normally wouldn't leave this many leaves on a cutting. I wouldn't have a cutting this big. I'd normally cut this up, but just as an experiment I decided to see what would happen. So far so good, but I'll let you know if that changes. And then this is my Philodendron Birkin. And you can see this little guy is rooting. It's only the kind of beginnings of a root, so he hasn't got too far yet, but my plan with this one was to hopefully encourage the plant to stop producing white leaves, because the white leaves tend to just go mushy and die. So it's okay with this sort of slight pinstripe variegation, that's fine, the leaf can stay healthy, but when the leaf is really white they just go brown and die. So I thought I'll chop some of it off. Hopefully the new plant will grow back with more green in it, and then I can put this back in the pot as well. I have to say, years ago when I got the Philodendron Birkin, I was so excited to get it. It was one of my first plants, and I'd seen it all over YouTube, and I thought, wow, I really need one of those. And now I've had it for a while, I'm kind of losing my love for it, partly because of the white leaves that just go mushy and die. I mean, who wants that on their plant? It kind of sets the plant back growth-wise, because you end up losing leaves and then you have to wait for another one to grow, and it's not the fastest grower either. So I am going to persevere with it, but I'm kind of falling out of love with it. I'm going to do my best for it though. We'll see what happens. This one here is a little Philodendron silver sword cutting. Let's have a look how this one's doing. This one does have some roots coming again. They're fairly small at the moment, but that's a good sign. Yeah, not much more to say about that. It seems to be doing okay. I've had a little bit of trouble with this plant, with the main plants. I keep getting stuck leaves and it's a real pain, I have to say. It's a huge shame because I really do adore this plant, it's lovely, but I'm struggling to get perfect leaves, or even if they're not perfect, just normal leaves. At the moment, the latest leaf that it's putting out, it does look like it's going to be okay. It hasn't got stuck, but it's just been a huge battle. Every single leaf kind of needs help and having its hand held, and that's why I cut this one off, because on one of the vines the leaf was just so mangled. I decided I'm just going to cut it and start again on that one. But yeah, I really hope that this plant can start behaving itself a bit more. It may just be that sometimes we have to accept that we don't have the correct conditions for a type of plant. It may be that I just don't have the right conditions indoors for philodendrons, because I do seem to get quite a lot of trouble with stuck leaves with philodendrons. Maybe they just don't like it in my habitat. They prefer to be outside. If that's the case, then I'll just have to accept it, because We see all these beautiful tropical plants, but we forget that they do belong outside in nature, in tropical conditions usually, and when we bring them into our home they don't always grow as we'd expect them to. And that's one of the things that I've been learning over the last couple of years on my houseplant journey. So I'm learning about which plants to pick to suit my environment rather than just trying to force certain plants to want to live in my environment, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's something I'm still learning about. Ah yes, this big boy, it's got a very heavy vase. It is my Monstera Deliciosa, and let's just make a bit of space here. This is very, very heavy. There we go. And this guy is just doing absolutely amazingly. I think there might be a bit of a bulge there for a possible new leaf coming through, but I won't get too excited. But look at those roots. It's got secondary roots coming now. It's really healthy. There's part of me that's tempted to just keep this in water until I'm ready to repot it in with my other plant, because the plan for this was to repot it back in with the mother plant, because I'd really like a more full Monstera Deliciosa. At the moment I just have the one big plant in there, and then there are a couple of babies in there that were in the pot when I got it, but they're very juvenile. They have a lot of catching up to do. So I just wanted to take a slightly more mature cutting to put that back in, and then I'll probably do the same again next year or the year after until I eventually get a nice full plant. But yeah, I may trial keeping this one in water until then. I'll see. I'm a little bit scared because I've never done that before, but we'll see. So far so good on this one anyway. The roots are doing really well, and yeah, this is my first time propagating Monstera Deliciosa, but it was so easy. And I did actually do a video on how I took the cutting for this and how I propagated it, so I will link that in the description if you'd like a bit more detail about how to do it. And I'll link any videos I have with propagation instructions for the plants I've shown you today as well. So do check the description box and I will make sure that information is in there for you. And speaking of that, I did actually film a video of me taking propagations on my jade plant, and this is one of them. I'm not going to bore you by showing you every single one because I have quite a few of these right now, but this is just one of them. They're all lovely and healthy. They're definitely rooted, because as I've said before, you just do the little tug test and you can feel that they're rooting. Also, some of them are starting to get tentative new growth too, but they're all looking really healthy. And yeah, jade plant is another one that's just super easy to propagate. I'd highly recommend it. If you're worried about chopping your jade plant, go ahead and do it, because it will grow back even stronger, I promise you. I really hope it does now, because I'll be in trouble if it doesn't, won't I? I really hope you enjoyed today's propagation update. Please do let me know in the comments what you are propagating at the moment. I do love to hear about what other people are propagating as well. What's going well for you, what's not going well for you. Whatever your experiences are, I would love to hear about them. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.